Our next contribution is from Gordon McKenzie, who is the Chief Executive of GuildHE. I'm always fascinated to read through the list of the memberships and the colleges that are in GuildHE, because some of them, and I think I asked you if the Royal Agricultural University, as it is now, which is one of my great examples of an institution that stays close to its market, has its own programme on Radio 4 at 5:45 every morning, which I think most universities would like, but is clearly involved, entangled with its business community in a way that is often talked about, but not much exercised. He was the Deputy Director for Higher Education Strategy at BIS, so how much he's responsible for the current prosperity that universities have enjoyed, even though they don't always see it that way, I don't know. He must have some share in the and our gratitude for some of that. But I'm looking forward to hearing your comments on business and higher education and the dilemmas that we're wrestling with. Gordon.
Thank goodness I've got long legs now. Right then. Yes. Actually, listening to Ian and about what I'm responsible for, I was, in one sentence, I was responsible both for giving advice on the Labour government's changes to equivalent and level qualifications in 2007, and responsible for some of the advice around the tripling of tuition fees for the Lib Dem and Conservative coalition government. So yes, that's right. I served a Labour government. Will future generations of civil servants be able to put that on their CV? We shall see. I'd like to begin with where Ian ended up, actually. It's about HE and business collaboration, and indeed with picking up on Neil's introductory point, really, that there always has been, we have always had in this country, a service tradition of higher education, a tradition that expects higher education to sort of serve individuals, serve businesses, serve society, and justifies itself in those terms. A tradition of providing a higher education that is vocational, that's innovative, that's open. It's perhaps, which is sort of ex-civil servant speak for definitely, perhaps not always as publicly celebrated or visible as some other traditions of higher education. And it doesn't on the whole claim to pursue knowledge for its own sake, but uses it to serve society and to solve practical problems. As Neil indicated, GuildHE's member institutions, if you look down the list, they are in that tradition. They are the heirs, actually often in direct institutional line, of the mechanics institutes, the art and technical colleges, the teacher training colleges, the agricultural colleges of the 19th century. Now they are universities, university colleges, further education colleges, specialist institutions, and again, interesting in the context that Ian set out, from both the sort of traditionally publicly funded, funding council funded bit of higher education, and also members from the private, including for-profit as well as not-for-profit sectors. And they include, I suppose, major providers in a whole range of professional subject areas. So like art and design and media, like music, performing arts, agriculture and food, education, maritime, health and sports, a lot of these vocational areas. They are diverse, but I think one of the things they do have in common is this tradition of technical, professional, craft higher education. And this tradition, as expressed by the institutions that are in GuildHE, not just them, but I think they're a reasonable example, it isn't just the survival of 19th century institutions, it is reinventing itself, I think, including actually in some of the newer entrants to the higher education market. This slide, Lord knows whether you can read it, I don't know, but you can find it on our website if you can't. Tries to capture some of the aspects of the relationship that these institutions have with employers. First of all, a commitment to serving the educational needs of particular professions, businesses, industry sectors. Linked to that is the ability of these institutions to understand and adapt successfully to changes in industry practice and patterns of employment, and still deliver highly skilled graduates ready for the world of work. As Neil said in his introduction, you look at somewhere like the Royal Agricultural University, you see someone that has been embedded in its industry and its sector for a very, very long time and understands it. And this comes from engaging employers in the design of courses. It comes from having lecturers that are often current practitioners, industry experts themselves with many years of experience. I think it's grounded in a focus on teaching and on the experience of the student. And that's actually one of the reasons why typically GuildHE members tend to welcome the Teaching Excellence Framework and the particular focus on the excellence of teaching. So you do have this strong educational philosophy, a high quality pedagogy is something that's valued and recognised in institutional culture. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And reward structures. There's a student-centred approach to learning. There's an interest in providing a ladder of progression from further education into higher education. And indeed, you know, a number of our members do both, do further education and higher education. There's commitment to lifelong learning. There is an interest in degree apprenticeships, and some of the very few that are being delivered by GuildHE members. A commitment to working with business, a commitment to skills-based development. And actually, for many of them, there is this strong commitment to a very specific local and regional development perspective. And what's true of educating undergraduates and postgraduates is also true of that institutional attitude to research and to knowledge transfer. These institutions have a record of generating research that has high economic, industrial, social impact. Frequently it's business or profession-led and funded, and with a number of highly distinctive areas of excellence like food security, creative industries, health. Worth noting, I think, that one of the key characteristics of institutions like this, institutions in this part of the sector, is that the role of researcher, teacher, and often professional practitioner are inextricably linked. It's not just an efficiency driven by necessity. Typically, these institutions don't have the resources to separate research from teaching by employing staff on research-only contracts. It's a model which I think can be inspirational in the way that it ensures research, teaching, and learning combine to draw on expertise outside higher education as well. And what you find when you visit these institutions is what you get is this sense of them being embedded as part of a learning and knowledge ecosystem. As I say, it's pretty much always locally and regionally and industry connected, but in many cases it's nationally and internationally connected too. The following slides are just to give you an example of some of those ecosystems through the lens of three very different institutions. The first one is Southampton Solent University. So on my thing about heirs of an old tradition, began its life as a private school of art in 1856. It's a globally important provider of maritime education and training. But it is also top 5 UK for creative subjects. Around half its students are doing creative subjects, very large cohorts in areas like fashion, journalism, media, music. The point I wanted to focus on here is that these are subject areas where freelancing and self-employment are actually the well-established normal career routes. And what the university has done in that world is respond to that with a programme they call Solent Creatives. And it's an approach that places the university in the top 20 for both the numbers of business starts formed in the previous year and the longevity of those businesses. And essentially, it began life as an extracurricular programme, and they then invested in it, they enhanced it, they embedded it in the curriculum in these areas, in these creative subjects. And they provide seed corn funding, pre-incubation and incubation space, mentor support, extra training. Essentially, it's an analogue for the sort of innovation pipeline that's sometimes advocated for formal university in the sense of staff-led spin-outs, and that you see in parts of the more research-intensive environments. But in this case, it's one focused on students and graduates in creative industries. The second one, we don't just have the Royal Agricultural University. We have 4 specialist agricultural members, and this one is about Harper Adams. began its life as Harper Adams College in 1901. Picking out just two aspects from this slide. The first, 100% of undergraduates do a work placement year. So the much admired sandwich course, the thing that every politician I've always worked for as a minister always wanted more of, it's alive and well in Shropshire. And I just want to say something here about degree apprenticeships. Firstly, a plea really, which is, I am hugely supportive of degree apprenticeships, hugely supportive. The plea is that in their development and expansion, and they are tiny at the moment, but there is a lot of interest in developing and expanding them. And in the changes of behaviour that follow, that what we don't do is inadvertently damage the existing highly successful models of work-related employer-engaged HE. Secondly, and this is a sort of more a big kind of system design point, and who knows, we may return to it in discussion. I don't think it will be sustainable to have a mass system for delivering high-level skills in which the costs and subsidies of the two main routes, traditional degrees, degree apprenticeships, are so out of balance. So, with traditional degrees, high costs for the individual through high levels of personal debt for degrees, degree apprenticeships, high costs for the employer through the levy. From high-level skills, the individual, the employer, the society, they all benefit. We have to find a way of balancing out the costs and the subsidies of those two routes. Otherwise, you are going to distort behaviours, you are going to distort choice. Sorry, I'll mention just briefly one other thing on this, which is, of the many things on this slide. Somewhere on there is a reference women in rural enterprise. The only national UK membership organisation to promote, support and develop rural women entrepreneurs. And again, this came out of understanding your world, came out of research that was done in Harper Adams in the late 1990s that showed that a significant number of farm diversifications were being established by women, but they were coming up against a number of barriers, lack of access to finance, right business support and so on. And essentially, it's about dismantling those barriers. It provides the training, the workshops, the networking, the support, and so on. It helps women start, grow, develop their businesses. And it supports innovation and growth generally by enabling these often tiny businesses to associate with each other and develop. And it is an approach that's been replicated in various countries around the world. Right, final area to focus in on. Creative arts, it's about Norwich, University of the Arts, began life as the School of Design in 1845. Just mention two things here. The importance of industry accreditation. So courses in areas like design for publishing, film production, games, art and design, graphic design, photography, other areas, all accredited by the industry body, creative skill set. So you understand that when you take that course, you are getting what industry says it needs. And then also the role of specialist providers like Norwich in the talent pipeline for creative industries. Creative industries, huge UK success story. 5.2% of the British economy, generated over 84 billion in 2014, employs about 2 million people. You don't get that sort of success just because we happen to be, an innately talented and creative country, brackets, though of course we are. You need a well-functioning educational pipeline. And actually, the bit of that educational pipeline that I'm most worried about at the moment is the damage that government is doing to it through its changes to the school curriculum with the introduction of the English Baccalaureate. That pipeline matters. What also matters is the interconnectedness with its own industry, with these often micro-businesses of the creative arts that specialist institutions like Norwich provide. I am almost done. Finally, I haven't got a slide for this one, but I ought to mention, on the day after the closure of the football transfer window, in which the Premier League spent almost 1.2 billion, I should mention an institution called UCFB, which is the world's first higher education provider dedicated to the delivery of undergraduate degrees in the operational and business facets of the football, sport and leisure industries. Global multi-million-pound sectors. In contrast with all these Victorian and Edwardian beginning institutions, it opened its first campus at Turf Moor, Burnley in 2011. Now has campuses at Wembley Stadium and the Etihad in Manchester. Sorry. As I said, the service tradition of HE reinvents itself. Thank you.
every time I go past the Elephant and Castle in London, I point to the old site of the College of Building and Printing, which some of you may remember. I think it's now part of the University of the Arts in London. The importance of that is that that's where Rupert Murdoch trained all his staff, ready for the change in the print industry, and was absolutely critical for all of publishing and a lot of the creative arts that we now enjoy. So thank you very much for that reminder that we have a great many gems and a lot of experience and practice, and perhaps some of the other institutions that are more general might learn from them.